afternoon, welcome to Ethical News Asia. Breaking news. Let us watch a live stream of what is happening now at H&M store.
Oh my god, it's a sustainable sweater and so many people have covered it there. Huh? Conscious? What are they going let's see. Okay. Wait, let me search. Sustainable materials. Have you heard of those before? Oh my god! Oh my god, do you know that H&M is accused of greenwashing? Huh? But this looks so real. It looks so green. Yeah. Honestly though, it's kind of disappointing. We are like paying premium for all these clothes and we think I'm saving the earth. No, I don't know what I'm paying for. Exactly, like conscious collection, all this also conscious. Then how would we know what's sustainable? Like, I rather they really about it, you know. Right? I guess we're really empty-handed today.
Thank you for the video. Back to the news on H&M greenwashing scandal. On the case of H&M, a prominent international fashion retailer based in Stockholm, Sweden, H&M follows a fast fashion model offering a wide range of budget-friendly clothing, accessories, and home products. It stands as the second largest international clothing retailer, operating thousands of stores across 75 markets, and it employs over 100,000 individuals worldwide. Its vision for sustainability is to lead towards a circular fashion industry with net zero climate impact while being a fair and equal company. So what is greenwashing? Greenwashing occurs when a company falsely markets themselves as eco-friendly to attract consumers and investors without real commitments to sustainability. This practice erodes trust, damages the credibility of genuine sustainable products, and diverts focus from actual environmental solutions. For companies like H&M, greenwashing risks regulatory scrutiny and harms both reputation and investor confidence, posing broader barriers to authentic sustainability efforts in the industry. So in 2021, H&M introduced a scorecard system to increase transparency about its products' environmental impact. However, in 2022, a class action lawsuit in the US and a Quartz report exposed that over half of these scorecards were misleading, falsely presenting products as more sustainable than they actually were. And in response, H&M has removed the scorecard from its website. H&M scorecard relied on data from the Heat Material Sustainability Index, MSI, a tool that was created by the Sustainable Apparel Coalition, SAC, to measure the environmental impact of materials. So these are the tools developed by SAC for assessing supply chain impacts. MSI evaluating material impact from creation to production, product module measuring the environmental effects across a product's full life cycle, and facility environmental module assessing the environmental efficiency in manufacturing. Following a complaint from the Norwegian Consumer Authority, SAC has paused its consumer transparency scorecards to review their accuracy, as critics has argued that they reflected only average material impact and not the actual product-specific data. So in light of these greenwashing allegations, H&M committed to enhance transparency by 2023, achieve climate positivity by 2030 through the use of 100% sustainably sourced materials, and to set clear sustainability goals. And these commitments are part of an effort to rebuild trust, addressing previous criticisms around the misleading scorecards. Now, let's focus on the key ethical issues in H&M's scandal. We will now delve into the three concerns revolving around the key ethical issue of greenwashing: inaccurate reporting, corporate social responsibility, and the lack of public acknowledgement. Firstly, the greenwashing scandal raises ethical concerns over accuracy and transparency in H&M's sustainability reporting. By relying on flawed scorecards, H&M exaggerated the environmental benefits of its products. An example of the misrepresentation will be a dress being promoted as using 20% less water than conventional products when it actually used 20% more, and this has created an illusion of sustainability. The inaccurate reporting not only damages H&M's credibility, but it also erodes the trust of eco-conscious consumers and raising doubts about its true commitment to sustainability. Consumers may also eventually distance themselves from brands with genuine sustainable efforts, potentially creating a market distortion. This affects both stakeholder trust and long-term business prospects. It also underscores a broader issue of corporate transparency, as accurate sustainability data is essential for accountability and for stakeholders to assess a company's true environmental impact. The fallout from misleading reporting also extends to investors who rely on accurate data to assess a company's risk on and sustainability practices. As investors increasingly factor environmental, social, and governance criteria into their evaluations, the company's capacity to attract capital inflows may be at risk if it fails to uphold high ethical standards in sustainability. From a principle-based ethics point of view, H&M's lack of transparency in its sustainability claims calls into action its commitment on its own core value of honesty, and this was outlined in its website. Honesty is essential in corporate communication, especially on environmental issues. By not adhering to this value, H&M's weakened the integrity of its sustainability efforts and undermined its ethical duty to transparency, thereby defying this principle. On corporate social responsibility, H&M's reliance on MSI, which used generalized data rather than specific product information, fell short of ethical standards, and this has raised concerns over corporate social responsibility and the ethical obligation to back sustainability claims with accurate, well-supported data, emphasizing on transparency and accountability. H&M's use of flawed scorecards not only harmed its own credibility, but it also risks eroding consumer trust in the broader industry, impacting genuinely sustainable products. Next, H&M's failure to publicly address the inaccuracies in its sustainability scorecards after the Quartz report has harmed its reputation as stakeholders and consumers begin to question the company's accountability. From a principle-based ethics perspective, particularly Kantianism, companies have a duty to provide truthful information which supports consumers' autonomy in making informed choices. And H&M's required removal of the misleading data without a formal apology or clarification has disregarded this ethical obligation. The lack of accountability also reflects an ethical barrier known as motivated blindness, where companies ignore unethical actions to protect their interests. This exemplifies the broader regulatory risk associated with greenwashing, as scrutiny from authorities like the Norwegian Consumer Authority has shown that misleading sustainability claims pose both ethical and legal challenges. Over to you, Remy.
Thank you, Sammy. Now moving on, I will be talking about H&M ethical issue in marketing. Ethical marketing practices include fairness, honesty, transparency in product claims. As consumers rely on information provided in the marketing tactic, it is important for companies to help consumers to make informed purchasing decisions. For instance, H&M was accused of misusing its heat index scorecard in their conscious collection, providing misleading information about the environmental profile of its products. You can see on the screen that they misused the inaccuracy score of 20% less water use instead of 20% more water use. This made their conscious collection product to appear more sustainable than they truly were. With the misleading information, it may have encouraged consumers to pay premium prices for these products, as generally as seen on the screen, products in the conscious collection are more expensive than its conventional products. Consumers who paid premium prices for these products may have felt disillusioned by the false marketing practices, which may have resulted to a post-purchase regret once they realized that the products were not as sustainable as marketed. As a result, this has damaged H&M reputation and consumers' trust, as they raise concern about the credibility of their environmental footprint and the fairness of the premium pricing. For instance, a consumer named Abraham Lizama regretted his purchase with H&M, as he felt that he was misled into thinking that the product he bought in the conscious collection choice was more sustainable than it actually was. He filed a case action against H&M. However, the federal court dismissed the case due to the lack of significant evidence. Apparently, H&M used terms such as more sustainable materials, but they did not make absolute sustainability claims about their product in the conscious choice. Therefore, from a legal standpoint, H&M deceptive marketing was not enough to prove a violation of consumer protection laws. However, from an ethical standpoint, terms such as more sustainable materials could still be misleading to consumers, as it could give them the false impression that the product were actually sustainable. Hence, consumers perceived that the use of the scorecard was made with the intention to deceive and manipulate consumers into thinking that they were making a conscious choice. We can review all of this issue under the ethical marketing framework and concluded that firstly, the exchange was not voluntary, as consumers who purchased from the conscious collection were not fully informed about the actual sustainability claims. Secondly, the consent to exchange was not fairly informed, as mentioned previously that the misleading sustainability claims have made it challenging for consumers to make a fair and accurate decision. Therefore, this created information asymmetric that favored H&M. Thirdly, these deceptive marketing techniques have negatively impacted consumers more than it benefited them. Lastly, these misleading marketing techniques called into question about the fairness and justice of H&M marketing practices, as they prioritize profit over transparency and honesty. And with all of this information I have provided to you, we have invited some of the key stakeholders to share their perspective on this case.
H&M aimed to enhance its brand image and attract eco-conscious consumers. By rebranding, and repositioning itself as a leader in sustainable fashion, it could capture the attention of a growing demographic of consumers that value sustainable production practices and eco-friendly products, which often attract a premium pricing and thus higher sales. At the same time, benefiting from improved stakeholder relations and to mitigate sustainability risks. Greenwashing is already prevalent in the fashion industry, and competing fast fashion retailers are doing far worse in terms of their environmental impact. If H&M does not quickly respond, it could fall further behind the competition. However, these are perceived as only short-term efforts, and in the long run, H&M would continue to be more sustainable than the competition. Here, at the Sustainable Apparel Coalition, now known as CASCAIL, we aim to promote the CAPE Index as the go-to standard to understand and quantify the sustainability impact of apparel products. To accomplish this, we must enhance its credibility and influence. We thus have a vested interest in having major brands such as H&M adopt the index to encourage its widespread use. It is thus key to note that the SAC does not directly validate nor audit the results of market participants using the index. It simply provides the framework and the tools, while third-party verifications are conducted voluntarily if stakeholders require an additional layer of assurance. Consumers today desire to support brands that are genuinely sustainable, driven by a personal commitment towards environmental responsibility. However, the average consumer is not familiar with the nuances of carbon footprinting, and we rely on sustainability certifications or scores, such as the HEAT Index, to evaluate a particular product. The scandal thus led to a loss of trust in H&M and other brands with similar claims using the HEAT Index. This was not isolated to H&M, but has reflected a growing skepticism towards the authenticity of sustainability efforts across the fashion industry. In response, consumers are demanding greater transparency and accountability, and we are urging brands to provide verifiable information about the environmental impact of their products. Investors are primarily motivated by financial returns and the long-term profitability of the company. This includes ensuring that H&M maintains a competitive edge in a market which increasingly values sustainability. Sustainability initiatives are thus seen as a strategic move to secure future growth and stability, while aligning with global trends towards environmental responsibility, while simultaneously driving sales and increasing shareholder value. Investors will thus typically prefer genuine and transparent sustainability efforts, as these build lasting value and mitigate the risk of reputational damage or broader legal implications, such as increased regulatory scrutiny. Therefore, investors are not incentivized to condone greenwashing, as it would undermine credibility and negatively impact financial performance.
Additionally, we will hear from some organizations on what they think H&M can do better to combat this greenwashing allegation.
Hi everyone, very honored to be here to be able to share my views. So we think that H&M can adopt a sustainability approach to address its greenwashing issues by fostering genuine measurable commitments to social and environmental responsibility. This approach targets long-term impacts and follows a triple bottom line of people, planet and profit. By adopting this, H&M could reduce environmental impacts while increasing transparency and accountability in its sustainability claims. Consumer demand for sustainability is higher than ever. The statistics from these surveys reveal a major shift in consumer priorities. Sustainability is now a crucial factor in purchasing decisions. This demand highlights a valuable opportunity for H&M. By investing in authentic and transparent sustainability practices, they could align with consumer values and create a competitive advantage. Now, let's look at a company that has successfully implemented this sustainability approach. Patagonia. Patagonia exemplifies a brand that has not only gained customer loyalty but has also seen consistent revenue growth thanks to its transparency and commitment to genuine sustainable practices. For example, Patagonia has offered Fair Trade certified clothing since 2014, which ensures compliance with rigorous environmental, economic, and social standards through independent audits. Additionally, Patagonia has achieved B Corporation status, certifying its accountability and ethical principles. One key aspect of Patagonia's success is its focus on transparency. Study shows that the majority of its consumers stay loyal to transparent brands and are willing to pay more for products from brands they perceive as genuine. This willingness to pay a premium stems from the confidence consumers feel in the transparency of brands where they know the impact of their spending. With today's market trends, sustainability and transparency have now become competitive necessities. H&M, on the other hand, has shown effort in transparency around its supply chain and sustainability initiatives. However, they have faced scrutiny over greenwashing allegations, where some claims lack substantive
substantive actions. A notable challenge is the brand's lack of reported progress on several sustainability targets, which has caused consumers to question the credibility of H&M's commitments. Unlike Patagonia, which openly shares data verified by third parties, H&M's transparency has been limited, leaving gaps that undermine consumer trust. To address these greenwashing issues, H&M could benefit from adopting similar measures as Patagonia. This includes obtaining credible third-party verifications for its sustainability claims and ensuring that all sustainability initiatives are clearly communicated to customers. By sharing verifiable data and certifications, H&M can enhance consumer trust and shift public perception towards viewing H&M as a genuine responsible brand. With these steps, H&M could build a stronger, loyal customer base that values authentic, sustainable fashion. Now I'll be passing my time to Bernice.
Thank you, Ching Yi. Secondly, we have regular independent audits by various parties, such as number one, reputable organizations like the International Organization of Standardization, ISO, the Global Reporting Initiative, GRI, and the Carbon Trust Standard. Secondly, consumer advocacy groups who are communities passionate about sustainability issues. And thirdly, environmental NGOs who work to protect the environment. Selecting a reputable accredited audit firm that specializes in environmental sustainability would ensure that H&M's sustainability claims are verified, credible, and accurate. For every issue identified during the audit, H&M should implement a clear corrective action plan with timelines for resolution and measurable outcomes. For instance, if a supplier fails to meet water usage standards, a specific improvement such as adopting certain water-saving practices should be mandated with a clear deadline given. Follow-up audits can then be scheduled in the following financial year to make sure these corrective actions are properly implemented to prevent recurring issues. H&M could also involve the suppliers themselves in developing the audit criteria so that they understand the requirements and the importance of such audits. H&M could also partner with consumer advocacy groups to bring greater completeness and credibility to the audit process. These groups could serve as observers or critics to review auditors' findings and ensure greater transparency. H&M could create consumer advisory panels to gather regular feedback on sustainability initiatives, product designs, and supply chain transparency. These panels could include environmentally conscious consumers or industry experts who provide insights on product quality, durability, and recyclability. Conducting regular surveys and focus groups with customers can help H&M understand consumer expectations for sustainability, gauge satisfaction with current practices, and identify areas for improvement. This feedback can directly inform the design and implementation of new initiatives. Another group that H&M can work with is the environmental NGOs. Partnering with reputable NGOs like Greenpeace, the Fair Label Association, or Fashion Revolution can help H&M improve its sustainability audits and certifications. These organizations can offer insights on best practices, perform independent evaluations of suppliers, and even provide certifications, which lend credibility to H&M's claims. For example, they could work with labor rights organizations to improve worker conditions, or collaborate with environmental NGOs on projects that reduce pollution or conserve water. H&M can also collaborate with NGOs to launch awareness campaigns that educate consumers on sustainable fashion practices, such as reducing consumption, recycling clothing, and choosing eco-friendly materials. This can include in-store workshops, online webinars, and educational content shared on social media and H&M's website. Moving on, we will be zooming in to look at how we can combat H&M's deceptive marketing specifically, which is to conduct an internal review of their marketing practices. H&M should back its sustainable claims up with tangible actions, starting with reporting progress on all key commitments. They should also strive to obtain legitimate certifications, such as the Global Organic Textile Standard or Certified B Corp, to prove that sustainability standards and criteria were met. Vague terms such as green products should be removed from marketing campaigns and replaced with more specific labels, such as 50% recycled cotton and polymers. Lastly, H&M's marketing should aim to convey their genuine actions in waste reduction and sustainable sourcing in a clear and concise manner, such that consumers will not be misled. A comprehensive review of all marketing practices ensure all sustainability claims are grounded in verified transparent actions rather than misleading or superficial messaging. It also helps H&M to ensure consistent, truthful, and substantiated messaging across all marketing platforms, preventing contradictory claims and overly ambitious promises that can attract greenwashing criticisms. In 2024, EU adopted the Corporate Sustainability Due Diligence Directive, introducing mandatory human rights and environmental due diligence requirements for large EU and non-EU companies operating in the EU. H&M should ensure that it adheres to the core obligations laid out in the directive before making sustainable marketing claims. These core obligations include integrating due diligence into all relevant policies and risk management systems, prevent potential adverse impacts and provide remediation for actual adverse impacts, as well as monitoring the effectiveness of due diligence policy and measures. This can be instrumental for H&M in addressing and mitigating greenwashing allegations by establishing a structured framework for accountability and transparency in their sustainability efforts.
Thank you for tuning into Channel News Asia. We will see you again.